Doors is a game where many players find themselves in a mysterious hotel with 100 rooms or doors, with each room connecting to the subsequent one, creating a somewhat linear maze. The sinister hotel is filled with hostile entities with different abilities which the players need to evade in order to reach door 100 to survive. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and welcome to Roblox Doors, a game that has been highly requested in the comment section and on my Twitter. If you also have any game or video suggestions, make sure to send them to me on my Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have kinda spoilers, and with that in mind, let's begin. Roblox Doors is a multiplayer game which also can be played solo. It takes place in a large hotel, mainly on one floor, which has 100 main doors with some other side rooms, storage rooms, and cellars. This includes libraries, studies, and much more. Although some rooms are safe to enter, many are rigged with monstrous entities with mysterious backstories which I will theorize about, but of course, keep in mind they might not be canon, as I will mainly rely on my own interpretation. The ultimate goal of the unnamed protagonist is to reach room 100 or door 100 in order to escape this hellhole of a haunted hotel. Majority of the monsters roam these rooms aimlessly, instinctually killing anyone they encounter. The protagonist enters the hotel using an elevator which takes them straight onto the floor festered with hostile creatures. In the story aspect of the game, this clearly doesn't make much sense to why the protagonist would willingly enter a hostile place full of monsters who would more than happily kill. But I've got a theory which would tie in to this action of the protagonist. It's a possibility the individuals are forced to enter this hotel floor, treating it as an escape room with real monsters and with very real threats. The individuals within the game can find certain items scattered in random rooms, locations, and drawers which they can use in their advantage. Some examples are lockpicks which allow the individuals to open locked chests, flashlights and lighters which assist them navigate in dark rooms, and vitamin pills which temporarily boost the player's running speed. The players must tread carefully while in each room, as their life is on the line and it depends on it. Before we start, keep in mind this story is not canon and based on my own interpretation and playthrough. Regardless, main aspects of the game are still in place and I will explain them. As the unnamed protagonist enters the elevator in the lobby of the hotel alongside 3 other players, is unsure of what he's participated in, anxious to what he will soon encounter. The other team members are equally unaware of what they will encounter, being just as anxious as the protagonist. As soon as they arrive in the reception area, so many personal belongings of the hotel guests are seen being left on trolleys, with some fallen off, depicting how whoever was visiting or worked in the hotel left in a rush, leaving all their belongings behind, as if some sort of unspeakable entity or entities targeted the hotel, whether killing anyone already there or scaring off any survivors. Unaware of what they will encounter, the protagonist stays behind, trying to find a way out, not willing to take part in whatever twisted game is set up for them. Thinking of the most logical thing anyone could think of, rather than going ahead with the fate that is already put down for them, the protagonist refuses to proceed when all of a sudden his vision goes blurry, starting to feel dizzy and nauseated, feeling something he hasn't felt before, experiencing the unimaginable, teleporting ahead outside of the reception area, being put next to the other players who have moved ahead. Baffled to what happened to him, just feeling sick and seeing things he couldn't explain all in a split second, he realizes he had his first encounter with a monster known as the Void, a shapeless and formless being which teleports left behind individuals to the most recent room visited by the other participants. This ensures that no one can go backwards or stay behind, with no one ever being able to leave the hotel, being forced to continue. The protagonist, terrified to what happened to him, tries to run back, getting back to the reception area when the unseen monster known as Void injures him severely and teleports him back to the rest of the players. At this point, the protagonist, starting to lose his sanity and courage, he hides in a closet which has been conveniently placed there, just like many more in other rooms for players to hide in, being an element in this twisted escape room. The protagonist spends more time in the wardrobe when all of a sudden he feels a presence, with his vision starting to get bloodied, with scribbled words instructing him to get out, when the protagonist, unsure of what to do, stays in when the bodiless entity known as Hyde kicks the protagonist out, delivering some damage to him. At this point, realizing there's no turning back with no place to hide or run, the protagonist goes the only way he can, going forward to escape this place. As the protagonist pushes through a mysterious place with the outside having a constant dark, rainy condition, he encounters the next monster known as Ice, with a clump of ice appearing randomly in a room with a purple smoke which stare directly at the protagonist. This entity has the ability to quickly deplete the player's health when they look at him, which forces the individuals navigate blindly, looking away not to lose their lives. As the protagonist continues with the last surviving team member, he enters room number 24 when all of a sudden, in confusion, he becomes faced with two doors, one being labeled as 25 and the other as 26. Knowing the rooms are in subsequent order, he witnesses his last surviving team member open door number 26 when she gets lifted by an unseen force in the air, seemingly only visible to her when her body gets dangled around before dying. Knowing this is the work of another hostile entity, it's revealed this monster is known as Dupe, which tricks the participants with fake doors, ambushing them right behind, taking a chunk of their health, which could easily be fatal. This incident, although traumatizing, leaves an important lesson for the protagonist to remember the number of each door before entering, not to fall for dupe, as he also scribbles the number of previously opened doors to confuse the protagonist. The protagonist, being all alone now, uses the valuable information he gathered from his previous encounters to survive, searching all the shelves and drawers and collecting all coins and items he finds. Meanwhile, he gets attacked by a spider known as Timothy, which is another monster which only slightly injures the participants hiding in drawers. Opening more doors and exploring this haunted place further, he soon opens a door where lights start to flicker, with the protagonist getting goosebumps all over his body, getting a sense of being followed by something or someone. That's when he thinks on his feet and hides in a wardrobe, watching from the gap of the doors the horror that is another monster known as Rush, which sweeps the room, destroying anything in its way, even destroying the lights. Navigating through the dark-made room, the protagonist goes to the open door, continuing on his unintentional journey to reach room 100 and escape. Witnessing more left behind luggage, forming a pretty good yet tragic story of what has happened to the guests, the protagonist starts losing hope, doubting himself and that he would ever be able to escape, as he fully knows there's nothing special about him and what gives him more of a chance to survive compared to all the guests and teams who perished in this hotel before him. That's when all of a sudden he notices a shimmering blue light emitting a calming sound, inviting and captivating the protagonist. Worried this must be another trick of a monster, he feels as if this time around it's different. He slowly approaches this light, which turns out to have been wanting to guide the protagonist and be a shimmer of hope in his darkest and lowest moment. The light in fact shows the hidden key to the protagonist to open the next door that has been locked. This entity is known as the Guiding Light, which is amongst the very few helpful entities which tend to assist the participants in this hotel. Encouraged by this kind and helpful entity, the protagonist trudges forward with more willpower when he faces one of the most horrifying and capable monsters. After passing several scattered eyes, first appearing in paintings, a humanoid monster with a single large eye emerges out of a black goo and chases after the protagonist, with furniture dropping and hindering the protagonist's path. Doing the only thing he can, the protagonist runs with all of his might, coming across several doors, with one only being the right one. That's when the Guiding Light reappears, assisting the protagonist in choosing the right door to evade this monstrous entity known as the Seek, which is accompanied by the horrifying eyes and emerging large arms which could capture the players. As the name suggests, this monster likes to seek out players and run after them, as if playing a game of hide and seek or tag. This in a way hints out to what sort of place this is, as if particularly designed to be a place of games while the participants can face death. After escaping this monster, the protagonist encounters other monsters such as the Screech, which is a tentacled gooey entity dwelling in dark rooms. This monster hurts the players if they don't find it quick enough, trying to attract players' attention by making a psst sound as if it's a game for it. Another entity the player can encounter is known as Halt, a green-tinted entity which represents a ghost with glowing eyes. This entity transports players into long, narrow corridors where it plays a game of catch with them, making them turn around several times, all while trying to avoid reaching this entity, as otherwise the participants would die. Another entity the protagonist encounters is known as the ambush, which, as the name suggests, ambushes the players and sweeps the room in a similar fashion to the rush, but instead lingers longer in each room and has a distinct green-pinkish glow. They are of course trickier than rush, as the longer they linger, they compromise the limited time the players have hiding in the wardrobes, as the hide entity can kick the players out and expose them to ambush. Some other minor entities are known as Shadow and Jack. Jack at times appears in wardrobes and prevents the players from entering momentarily before disappearing. On the other hand, Shadow appears in rooms and flickers the lights before disappearing, not posing as any real threat to the protagonist. Another monster known as Glitch appears rarely when doors lag, with the entity teleporting the players to a random room away from the current room. Another minor entity is known as Window, which is neither friendly or hostile, which appears behind smaller windows, more visible when lightning strikes. Another minor entity which seems to want to be helpful but really isn't is the Curious Light, which is similar to the Guiding Light but isn't that helpful in guiding. Some other entities are A60, A90 and A120. In order, when A60 appears, the players must hide when they hear it, as it acts similarly to the rush but with no lights flickering. A90 on the other hand will deliver damage if the player makes the slightest move when encountered. A20 also acts similarly to ambush but doesn't necessarily loop back and also doesn't flicker any lights. On the flip side, however, collecting all the coins come in useful when the protagonist meets an entity known as Gift Shop, which offers a respite to the protagonist and different items to make his journey much easier. Two other entities are present within the shop called El Goblino, which is a small red goblin alongside a skeleton called Bob. One item specifically is the crucifix, which banishes many of the monsters encountered, which identifies the demonic nature of these entities, possibly being cast down in this hotel from a different hellish dimension. Eventually, the protagonist arrives at the library where he encounters the Figure, a large humanoid creature with his ribcage outwards and a large mouth lined with sharp teeth on his face, rendering him blind, with his sense of hearing only helping him track down the protagonist. The protagonist soon finds several books which give him the code to the padlock locking the library door, managing to evade the Figure, continuing to go through more doors, finally arriving at room 100. In there, he witnesses an emergency exit door leading to a staircase where he gets hindered by the Figure entity once more, which uses its hearing to find the protagonist. Meanwhile, the protagonist tries to activate the elevator to escape, with this place seeming like an intricately designed escape room, as if it's filled with hidden cameras watching every step of the way and the grisly ways the players fall victim to the monsters. As soon as the protagonist gets inside the elevator, the Figure jumps on top, disrupting the mechanism of the elevator, with its cord starting to malfunction and snap, making the elevator free fall with the protagonist inside and the Figure on top, with the story cutting at this point, with the rest being left ambiguous as there seems to be a continuation in the making. Now let's go over the possibilities of what these monsters could be and where they have come from and who the participants are and what is going on in general. I couldn't help but notice the similarities of this game story to the Cabin in the Woods movie, with an evil, overwatching organization manipulating aspects of the cabin and releasing certain monsters to kill the visitors in variety of ways. The entire hotel at the same time seemed like an escape room where the players not only had to evade murderous monsters, but they had to solve several puzzles and find items in order to progress and use wardrobes and beds in their advantage to hide. Therefore, seeming like a mix of an escape room with several monsters put in one place, it seems as if a powerful organization has forced the participants in the hotel while observing their every move by hidden cameras, all for the sake of entertainment and making money. I believe the participants were told it's just a typical escape room with no serious consequences, seemingly enticing them with a large reward. That's why the protagonist tried desperately to escape and go back, but he couldn't due to the monsters such as Void teleporting him ahead and the hide entity stopping him from hiding in the wardrobes for too long. The monsters, on the other hand, seem to interact with the crucifix acquired in Jeff's shop, which means the monsters have a demonic nature. Therefore, it's possible the organization summoned these demons from a hellish dimension to create a more entertaining watch for their viewers. The presence of helpful and neutral entities also suggests these monsters are not mechanical, but have their own free will, with majority being hostile and some being peaceful. It seems the organization specifically handpicked them to make the watch more thrilling, giving the participants a fighting chance, providing them with false sense of hope. On the other hand, the left-behind bags and suitcases seem very identical to each other, as if they were intentionally placed there to create a theme for the escape room game, making it more entertaining and terrifying for the participants. The entire hotel seems like a game room, as all the rooms are attached to each other with no corridor or hall separating them, which clearly suggests it has been specifically designed for other purposes, for the participants to fight for their lives and the viewers to achieve entertainment. I would say the viewers would very likely be ourselves, the players who play the game for entertainment in the expense of the participants' lives. And that's about it for this video, folks. Let me know what are your thoughts about this video. Do you want me to make more Roblox Doors videos theorizing on more aspects of it? If you enjoyed this video, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, it's been your host Star, and I will catch you on the next one. Have a good day.